Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our today's office hour on California's BEAD Subgrantee selection process. My name is Ali Eshraghi, and I serve as a program and project supervisor for the BEAD program here at the California Public Utilities Commission, CPUC. I'm joined today by my colleagues from the CPUC, CTC Technology and Energy, and Ready.net, and they will introduce themselves as we go through your questions. In terms of the agenda for today, we are starting with a brief welcome and some housekeeping notes, and then we'll move on to the main segment of this session where we'll address your questions. And finally, we'll wrap up by outlining next steps and sharing some important reminders. Let's cover some guidelines for participation in today's session. To ask a question, please write the question in the chat. And we will, if we need follow-up or more clarification from you, basically we'll unmute you and we can have that additional information from you. Keep yourself on mute until it's your turn to speak. If you've been called upon to clarify any parts of your question, please provide the clarification part in the chat afterward. This helps us accurately capture your question to input those in our FAQ document. We'll start the first round of questions, giving everyone a chance to ask one question. Please avoid multi-part questions during this round. After the initial round, if time allows, we open the floor for additional questions. If you would like to follow up on someone else's question, please write it in the chat and we'll go through those in order we receive. Thank you for your cooperation. In terms of the scope of today, this session, as mentioned at the top, is focused on questions about the subgrantee selection process. During this session, as we go through your questions, there might be questions that we are not able to provide answers during this call. We'll take those questions back, review them, and include the responses in our next version of the FAQ. If you have questions that you also want to submit to our email box, you can send those to beadgrant@cpuc.ca.gov. As a reminder, the CPUC is required to follow the rules established by the NTIA, which administers the BEAD program. Questions and answers from today's meeting will be posted in the FAQ section of our website. Additionally, we are recording this session, and this also be posted on our website as well. In terms of the FAQ document, the latest version of that has been posted today on our website, which included the questions that we have received over the last week. The questions that we received during this session or the questions that you send us via email in the next few days will be posted in the version that we post next week. Thanks for joining us today, and let's get started. And as a reminder, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. The first question, I'll read that out. We are trying to determine application viability for our project for BEAD. We are a small municipality with a primary low moderate income population. We are establishing a public broadband utility that will serve approximately 4,017 locations within approximately 3.5 square miles. FFA is funding much of this project, and we will be debt financing the remainder. But there is still a significant funding gap, and we have 18 BEAD eligible locations within our project area. From what I understand, we can include up to 20% of non-BEAD eligible locations in our project, as this does strengthen our long-term business case. Does this would mean that we could include 18 eligible locations, and 800 non-eligible locations, 20% of total non-eligible locations in our project area, or is intended to be 20% of total BEAD funded non-eligible project locations. 18 eligible locations equal to 80% of BEAD cost, and 4.5 non-eligible locations, 20% of BEAD cost. We appreciate clarification. I know this is very specific. Ziggy, do you have any insight to this question?
Yeah, I'm not quite following the math, I have to admit, but the logic is from NTA is somewhat simple. That there, in terms of it's not by cost, it's by location count. So you are allowed to include 20% non-eligible locations in your project cost, but it's not. So if you have a total of 100, 20 of those could be non-eligible locations that you would add within your project, but it's not by cost, it's by location.
Thank you, Z. So the next question, and for your question, going back to your first question, if we can like go through this, your math, and provide a more comprehensive response in our FAQ document. The application, then moving on to the next question, the application requires us to submit both a 100% and a 90% proposal. As our 100% build is not realistically feasible, we plan to enter a very high placeholder price for the 100% scenario. Will this high estimate disqualify or negatively affect our 90% proposal during evaluation, or are the two proposals evaluated independently? Ziggy?
Yeah, so I can't speak to what your preferred strategy should be. That's certainly up to you. But I would point out that it is only the 100% application that gets scored. The score is based really on the 100% application. And the score determines who will be approached first. So if somebody has a higher 100% score than you, we'll look at them first, and if their proposed costs are within budget, then they might be assigned, and we'll never get to your proposal. So it's in your interest to, if you care about being evaluated first and get a chance first, then certainly yes, you should have it competitive. And then the project price is not a scoring criteria, is the comment. That is correct. It is, while it's not a scoring criteria, it is a criteria for evaluating whether we have the budget to fund it or not. So the extremely high cost per location threshold is such a mechanism that determines whether this is a reasonable cost or not, and whether the budget is there to fund it. So it's still an important marker. If the cost is too high and you can't be funded, we'll go to the next highest scoring application.
Thanks, Ziggy. Just adding one point to the point in terms of the project cost. So while that's not a scoring, also I would want to add that the match that you're providing indirectly be impacted by the project price that you are providing. And clarification for everyone on this call, the 100% and 90% both are not required. The 100% is required, and you have the option to submit a 90%. So
very good.
Thanks.
And I didn't introduce myself. Ziggy Rifkinfish, Vice President of Broadband Strategy with CTC. I'm consultant.
Thank you, Ziggy. The next question, if awarded, how quickly will NEPA be approved and release of the funds be processed? Our project is partially funded by other grant sources on a tight timeline, and procurement has already been completed. Construction is slotted to begin in late April. Will the fact that contracting has been completed be an issue? We can amend the contract to include federal and state provision required by BEAD. Ziggy, do you have any insight into this, or should we take it offline?
Well, we can take part of it offline, but the construction activities are not eligible BEAD costs if the NEPA has not been approved. So you have to undergo NEPA before you put a spade in the ground. So you certainly cannot get any reimbursement for any costs. It cannot be part of the project, in fact, if you've already engaged. I think CPUC has a tentative timeline for when we expect the project to be selected, and then we're at the mercy of NTIA. They will approve, hopefully very quickly. Then you'll have an executed agreement, and then hopefully your project will qualify. Your activities will qualify, essentially being categorically excluded. So it could be a relatively short process. Short could mean 3 months. It could mean 1 month. But it is something that you have to go through. And only when you get that finding of no significant impact and approvals to go forward, and then you'll get a green light from CPUC. They'll review the documentation. They'll, of course, help assist, technical assistance, so you're not alone on this. But nevertheless, the timing is an important factor here on the construction side for sure.
Thank you, Ziggy. Next question. There are PAUs in our area that have very few eligible locations, like 2 out of 500. This would make it unattractive to include in our proposal. Are there reasons we should consider including despite low number of eligible locations? Ziggy?
Sure, that could be part of your strategy. There are scoring criteria related to equity and other types of included PAUs. There's also a requirement for a certain threshold of high need PAUs that need to be included in a project. So that could be a factor. And it may just be that your infrastructure is very close to those two locations, and it kind of makes more sense to pick that PAU up rather than another PAU that has more locations, but it really doesn't make sense from a business perspective from yours. So in order to get that threshold of high need PAUs included, that could be part of the factor, but that's up to you. There are scoring reasons why you may want to. In some cases, you'll do the analysis to figure that out. And again, there's also a threshold in terms of making sure that you have included the sufficient number of the types of PAUs needed to have a valid project area.
Thank you, Zihi. So the next question is, could you clarify whether pre-award costs are allowed, and if so, what costs are eligible and in what timeline? So I just, before I pass it to Ziggy, I just note that our latest version of FAQ document is posted today, and a question related to this is also included, but I asked Ziggy if he can provide a summary of the response.
Yeah, I'll refer to the frequently asked question answer on this. I do want to know, just to reinforce the logic of it, is that construction activities are not allowed, and Also, generally speaking, although there are some costs that are eligible, they are at your own risk if you choose to do it early on. But generally, the criteria, the logic is it has to be costs that would have been necessary after the award. If you were going to go on with the project. So these would have been necessary regardless of the timing, and that is one of the criteria for establishing whether this is an eligible expense that could be accepted. CPUC have to approve such costs. So it's not, you can't do it right now, for example. But it can certainly be done um, prior to awards. So if you get selected and you're awaiting for NTA approval, et cetera, you can get started on certain costs, but you need to consult with CPUC first and get approval.
Thank you, Ziggy. So the next question is for awardees, what is the time frame for payment from grant funds after showing completion of a milestone, and how many milestones are allowed for a project? Probably something that we need to take offline, but I ask Jonathan if he wants to provide any insight into this.
I think it's best if we take that question offline, and we'll provide it in our next FAQ.
Thank you. As a reminder, if you have any questions, please put those in the chat. Next one is a compliment. Just read it out. Just want to mention that the application portal for both the pre-qualification and application is impressive, easy to use, and well designed. Thanks for your efforts. Thank you. I appreciate that. And thanks to all the three teams, CPUC, CTC, and Ready.net for basically trying our best to have a user-friendly portal. So the next question, I'm asking if will funds be issued on a reimbursable basis for periods of no more than 6 months pertaining to reduced bond amount requirements. I think this is related to the other question, and we can include that in our FAQ document. Can you verify that you can submit multiple PAUs in a single application as long as they are contiguous? Ziggy?
Yes, contiguity is important. Probably not contagious unless we're talking about something going viral. But yes, aggregation is by contiguity. If you have, conversely, if you have areas that are non-contiguous that you are interested in covering, then you can submit them as two separate projects.
Thanks, Ziggy. So giving it a few more minutes to see if there are any other questions. And while we are waiting for other questions, as mentioned at top, we are aiming to publish the FAQ document every week now during the application window, during the time that the application window is open. But just want to note that I know there would be sometimes questions that you want to get answers sooner, and don't want to wait until the next FAQ document is published. So please submit those to our mailbox, BEAD grant@cpuc.ca.gov, and our goal is to get back to you within 3 business days, as soon as possible, but within 3 business days. And if your question is something that we think we need more time, we will let you know. So the next question, I'm seeking clarification regarding section 3.3E2 of the BEAD project application. We understand that this section requires a spreadsheet upload of non-BSL or ineligible locations included in our proposed project area. Our network include rural locations that are not listed in the CPUC BEAD database data sets, unserved, underserved, served, or CAI, and we plan to include these as essential infrastructure for delivering qualifying service. Is it acceptable to use custom location IDs for these non-BSL locations, provided we include latitude, longitude, and a brief description? Ziggy, do you have any?
Yeah. So you cannot. It has to have an FCC ID if it is a non-eligible broadband serviceable location. If it's a CAI, not all CAIs have an FCC ID, so your solution is a pretty good one.
Thank you, Ziggy. So the next question, does BEAD allow for a contingency in an applicant's construction budget? And if so, where can we find guidelines on what's allowable? Ziggy?
I know that there is an allowance that BEAD does allow for contingency, but I don't know if there's a cap. I'll have to research that. So we'll get back to you in a fact.
Thank you. Let's give it another minute to see if there are any other questions. If not, we can wrap up. Okay, thank you, Sam. Could we have slides up? Thank you. So as I mentioned during this call, for questions about California's BEAD subgrant selection process, please email them to beadgrant@cpuc.ca.gov. If you have other inquiries about the BEAD program in California, use our other mailbox, bead@cpuc.ca.gov. As I mentioned, and the questions during this session will be included in our next version of FAQ document, which will be posted next week. The version for this week has been posted earlier today, and it's available on our website. In terms of the upcoming events, we are going to continue posting the recorded webinars to go through different elements of the program and provide resources for applicants. We will continue with these office hours on Thursdays, 1 to 2 p.m. in the next few weeks/month during the application process. And these events are open to anyone interested in attending. The registration links are available on our website. These sessions provide an open forum for stakeholders to ask specific questions, seek clarification, and receive guidance on the BEAD application process. Stakeholders are encouraged to attend these sessions to fully understand the requirements and opportunities provided through the BEAD program. These events are designed to promote transparency, collaboration, and success for all potential subgrantees. Thank you for your participation and engagement today. Have a great afternoon.